People getting off planes in Hawaii immediately get a lei. If this same tradition applied to the rest of the U.S., what would each state immediately give to visitors? Ask Reddit. Wolf805. Baked potato in Idaho, Damdong, 6,354. You are getting cheese curds. Welcome to Wisconsin. Buxton 06, 17,553. Beads in Louisiana. Dubs and 49ers, 7,694. Maple syrup in Vermont. Hokey Pokey Guy, 4,578. In Mississippi you'd get a plate of fried catfish. Beached bottlenose, 4,439. Welcome to Pennsylvania. Here's your flat tire. Sensitive_lion, 9,776, 19,768. North Carolina, a cheerwine, a barbecue sandwich and a firearm permit. XA0, zoom in along, 4,735. Fago and a tire repair kit, Michigan, specifically SC Michigan. A Precusi_flex, 3,466. What is the scariest, trust your gut, feeling you felt before and glad you did so? Ask Reddit. The real greedy goat. When I was a teen I'd make a few bucks helping a local farmer bale hay. The hay would be stacked on a trailer and towed by tractor to the barn. I usually sat on the front of the trailer on the way to the barn. But I suddenly felt like that wasn't a good place to be and I moved to the back. As soon as I did, I heard a clang. The hitch had come loose from the tractor, while heading down a steep hill. I climbed down the back and easily stepped off, moments before the trailer flipped over into a ravine. P38 Lightning. 5,180. Not sure if it qualifies, but I used to live and work in the suburbs. One evening I was coming home at dusk. I was 18 to 19 and had the house to myself. Brother was out of town and mom was at her parents'. My job was about 10 miles from my house and maybe 6 turns on decently sized roads. XA0 I'm a fairly observant person and it wouldn't be odd for the same car to be behind me for half of those turns. But this night a car followed me all the way to my street. XA0 I got a gut feeling I was being followed, so I passed my house and turned left. My house was one over from the corner of a residential street that was a quarter-mile loop that also had another small street in it that reconnected to the loop. This car followed me as I made a loop. I then turned right to restart the loop and it followed me again. This time I turned down the small street and completed the loop again. It followed me one more time. As I was about to make the loop for the 4th time they finally drove off. XA0 I drove around another 5 minutes just to make sure they didn't circle back as I had nowhere else to park except out front of my house, but I was creeped out the rest of the night. I slept with my door locked and barricaded and with a big kitchen knife. XA0 I have no idea if or why they followed me. Don't know if it was a friend pranking me or if my brother put one of his friends up to it, since it's the only time that's ever happened and it was quite coincidental that I was alone. I worked retail and some of the employees did have records, so I just don't know. XA0. WATGU. 6,877. In high school, my best friend and I were hanging out and drinking with this group of a few guys that we had known for a while. When it was time for us to go home for curfew, they told us they would walk with us. The fastest way was across a creek bed and down under an overpass. And we had gone that way a million times before. I had a really bad feeling about walking that way that night. I had brand new white shoes on, so I used that as my reason for wanting to walk the long way. On public streets, my friend was annoyed and the guys got mad and told us to walk by ourselves. A few months later, 3 of those guys were arrested for raping a girl when she got drunk with them. I don't know if anything really would have happened that night, but I do remember being really scared for no apparent reason. Pity Mama 88, 8912. I got an absolutely gut-twisting, nauseating feeling and waited a few seconds before driving through the green light. Two pickup trucks slammed into each other and would have crushed me on my motorcycle. Lost Argonac. 997. Not me. My grandfather. He used to never wear his seatbelt. One day he's driving around with my mom and suddenly remarks, "I feel like I am about to go through the windshield," and buckles in. Less than 30 seconds later, as they going through an intersection, a car blows the red light going like 40 miles per hour and slams into my grandpa's side of the car. He walked away with nothing worse than some fractured ribs, and now he always wears his seatbelt. PH was an inside job. 7432. I noticed pain in my lower back one morning and thought I slept on it wrong or something. Throughout the day it continued and started to feel like when you get kicked in the groin. Thought to myself, it's probably cancer. Did a self-check and didn't think I noticed anything, and had my GF do the same and she wasn't sure. Called a urology office on my gut feeling and got the last appointment before Christmas break. It was cancer, but it was super early. Got an orchiectomy a few days later. Then some mild chemo a few months later and have been just fine ever since. Edit for more information because this blew up. I had noticed some similar pain that lasted a weekend or so, a month or so before the pain that sent me to the doctor. The doctor was very kind considering I walked into his office and said, "I think I have cancer." He and fellow both did a gloved hands-on exam of both testicles. They decided to do an ultrasound on both testicles next at the same exam. Showed me both images and there was a huge difference between the normal and irregular. The next step was surgery to remove the bad testicle, which is called an orchiectomy. Scheduled it for 3 days later with the same doctor in an outpatient surgery center attached to their building. Surgery went well and then I was kind of in limbo for a few months. The urologist recommended radiation therapy. Talked to a radiation oncologist who recommended chemotherapy. Talked to a chemotherapy oncologist who recommended observation with the urologist, had a follow-up with all three, and finally decided to do 2 rounds of carboplatin at a highish dose but over a short period. Shaved my head into a mohawk expecting to lose my hair but did not, and just ended up looking like a goober. Had some medical debt and stupidly paid that over student loans, which messed up my credit for a second. Though the experience made me realize how caring and kind and amazing my girlfriend at the time was. And we have been together ever since. Married for 7 years now. D10 out of 10 would do again. Zondervos. 11,029. 9. I was once walking down a street at night and randomly thought to myself, "Yikes. I'm going to get mugged." I ignored the feeling. Got mugged. Dr. Windup Bird. 2530. 30. My dead best friend visited me in my dream and ran into her in a grocery store. I remember I was ecstatic to see her and blabbed, and she just simply responded, "You're sick," and I woke up. In a few days I found out I had high-risk cervical lesions and needed surgery. Bubbly Competition 14. 2941. A question for men: do you actually use the little opening in the front of your underwear when you go to the bathroom? Or is it purely decoration somehow? Ask Reddit. Ex horchatus bisex. I don't use it, but my cock likes to use it at random times for some reason. Warpus. 10,157. No. You pee like a man. Pull your pants and undies to the floor and pull your shirt all the up. Using your chin to hold up the shirt is optional. Humpy Douglas. 6,330. If I am like in a suit with a belt and all my stuff tucked in. Yes. Never any other time. Different _mud _1283. 2579. Only for number 2s, Tinkle 84, 948. I wear a uniform at work, tucked in. So it's much easier to keep my pants belted and my shirt tucked and utilize the zipper and opening, rather than retucking and holding my pants up. Competitive U 6317. 1390. I think my girlfriend used that opening more than I ever have in my whole life. Unknown Fox Alpha. 383. It's mostly decoration for me. I just pull the waistband down to go. Definition Green 8851, 906. Yep, I use it. STPETE Dog. 481. What is an old trend that is still doing a lot damage and that people don't realize? Quote, Ask Reddit. Soren J. I once had a job with what was called a no-fault policy. If you were late or absent 7 days in a year without prior notice, you were fired. Prior notice was a week's warning. If you were sick 2 days in a row, that's 2 points against you. If you were late because of an accident ahead of you on the highway, that was a point. If there was a blizzard and they closed the road, 1 point. I never got more than 3. But one lady whose kids were sick and in hospital racked up 3 points in a week. No fault meant not the company's fault, you got fired. Edit. Darkest_Irish_lass. 6808. People going to work when sick. Still. Asterisk. Stefan the nurse. 8971. That working out while sick makes you sweat out your sickness, but in reality you're prolonging your recovery and potentially getting others sick at the gym too. Lily_Puff. 823. Mulch volcanoes around trees. Instead, can I interest you in a mulch donut? Best Research 4022. 2185. 5. Irresponsibly selective breeding dogs. People want their cute petite dog or their hard-looking pits while completely disregarding how their genetic deformities gives them a shit quality of life. A lot of these animals die relatively young, and if they miraculously do make it to old age, end up suffering horrendously as their issues become magnified. So much so that most of the assholes that want to breed these animals end up abandoning them, or just neglecting them until they're incapable of powering through their struggles and die. Snoo Doggos 7432. 2448. Using Drano or liquid plumber on potentially older pipes. Curious Lavender. 1670. Working when sick. Ruby Cube Mountain. 1081. The lack of paid maternity leave. Decent Hawk 8782, 2734.